The French Directoire is the period of time during the French Revolution when really the revolution is taking place. This is between Louis XVI and Napoleon. So what are we dealing with? Well, during this period of time, they're primarily focused on the ancient Greek world. Obviously, the ideas of democracy are going to speak quite loudly to them, and we're going to see that. Much of the furniture is going to be very similar in form to what we've seen already, but it tends to be less ostentatious, less decorative. It takes on much simpler lines, things that we would expect from the Greek and Roman world. We will see the introduction of these Toupie feet, which are these top-like feet coming to a very narrow point. And I've talked about this a little bit. It gives it a delicacy. Even a heavy piece looks delicate and light on these feet. It's coming in part from furniture makers, etc., looking at ideas like ballet, where the dancer up on point is going to look far more graceful than flat-footed. Now, in terms of seating, one of the big issues that's going to happen is the revival of the Klismos chair. Now, we've seen this from the ancient Greek world, and it's coming back here, and it makes a lot of sense. Again, it reflects many of the ideals that are floating around at the time. And this tends to take on a fairly standard form. We tend to have a scoop back. It'll often be painted. Many of these are going to be painted. We can have a pierced back or pierced splat at times. The front legs might be decorated, but not always. The back always drops back in this clean curve. Now, this form is still very popular today. It's not only a very functional chair, but it has a certain meaning and sense about it. In terms of beds, they're again looking back at the Greek and Roman world. And we're going to see the Recamier Bed, which is basically a lower take, on the banqueting couches that we saw in the Greek and Roman world. Whereas the Greek and Roman ones were quite tall, you needed a footrest to get up to them. This is much, much lower. And this was not, in fact, used in the bedroom. Rather, it's going to be used in the saloon, or the parlor, basically. Now, this bed has ends of equal height, either surmounted by pediments or scrolled outwork, which you see here. But during the Empire period, a sculptured figural support with 2 feet would be a little bit more common. So we will see this come back during the Empire, but the idea is here that they're taking these examples from the ancient world. They're making them cleaner than what we saw under Louis XVI, and many of these forms will continue from Louis XVI through the Directoire into the Empire furniture that we're going to look at next. The difference is in this middle period that we're in here, things tend to have cleaner lines, cleaner curves.